Hello, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Welcome back to Raised by Her.
Yes, absolutely.
You look, go ahead.
I was gonna say, good to see you.
Yeah, you look pretty in pink.
Well, thank you. You do likewise.
Thank you. Why are we wearing pink?
Well, pink is the color for the month of October for National Breast Cancer Month.
It's true. Yeah. We're also just coming from an event together, too, honoring Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So all the things. Have you had any experiences with breast cancer?
Fortunately, I have not personally had that experience, and it has not been a challenge for my mother or my grandmother. So, but I've had aunts who have been impacted by it, several relatives, and many dear friends who have had breast cancer.
It's pervasive. It's one of the, it's kind of like big cancers, but it's something that happens to a lot of people.
Yeah,
a lot of women
happens.
and men. So.
Breast cancer is pervasive in our society for not only women, but also some men. It's difficult, I think, in 2025 to even understand why it is so difficult to be able to absolutely have people to pay attention to their screenings, because it's real important for women, um, particularly young women, but women who are of a particular age, to sometimes take it seriously, the screenings.
I mean, I think it's getting more common with folks younger and younger, too. Maybe it's just cancer across the board. But I know for me, my personal experience, a good friend of mine, we went to college together, and in her mid-30s, she was diagnosed, and she has since passed away. But that was an awful thing to watch. And I was like, and she's only in her 30s, and that's when it was that decade of my life where people started to detect that illness. And I mean, it's what prompted me to go get my first mammogram.
Sure.
Even though the doctor was like, you're not ready. I'm like, we are ready. And either you're going to do this with me, or I'm going to find another doctor that will.
Well, I think also the monthly screenings or personally checking yourself every month, back in the day, it was something that was talked about in my generation, that every month you really should make sure that you get in the shower and check your breasts and make sure that there is not a lump there. Or
that's how my friend found hers. She was doing a self-exam.
Okay. And so, but now mammograms are supposed to also be able to help us to detect.
But I don't think they've gotten any better over the course of time. Like, I think probably my mammogram experience was the exact same as your mammogram experience, and it was necessary and all that, but it was not a comfortable experience.
I believe that, and I've said this to the technician many times, I believe that men are designing these machines because the machines that they use for mammograms are not the most comfortable machines, but they are necessary, and it has not gotten any better or any more comfortable over the years. But it is such an important screening to have. Mammograms are important to pay attention to. And so this month, October being Breast Cancer Awareness Month, reminds us, regardless of your age, regardless of the circumstance, to pay attention and to do what it is that you need to do. And especially African-American women, our percentages are higher than the majority population in terms of having breast cancer. 34,000 Black women every year are diagnosed with breast cancer. That's still a lot.
Well, hopefully somebody in Silicon Valley or somebody that's in a tech company or something is working on designing something that makes it more comfortable and more accessible.
It is. And there are a lot of walks that they
That's
have.
true. There's awareness.
A lot of awareness. We have a dear friend that has a foundation in honor of her mother who really has done a great job in local awareness here and has been recognized locally, regionally.
And actually, that's what I've heard. It's that I guess awareness is like the awareness and early detection are the two most important in terms of trying to save your life. So the awareness piece, I guess, is an important piece. Not I guess, it is.
Well, it is. And in a presentation that I heard recently, the question was asked, So where does it come from? A young woman, where does breast cancer come from? And the doctor said, well, there is no one specific thing. It can be hormonal. It can be genetic. It can be something that's environmental. They really are still researching where it comes from.
But aren't they researching like where all cancer comes from?
Well,
like, I feel like that's not a reasonable ask.
Well,
like if somebody had the answer to that question, they probably have the answer to some other questions as well, I would imagine.
I think, but I believe that she asked that question because if you're talking about prevention and is there a way to prevent it, and so the screenings are really the way that it is encouraged to try to prevent it and to make sure that one is paying attention, but also living a healthy life and healthy lifestyle.
All the things we know.
All the things we know and all the things that people continue to say time and time again.
And maybe also having those conversations with the women in your life, particularly your family, because I think a piece of it's also, depending on what type of cancer it is, hereditary. So, me being comfortable enough to ask you or for you to ask my grandmother, and then just to have general awareness around like what your aunts have gone through and things like that. Because I think that's actually one of the questions on the screen. They're like, do you have a family history?
That's right.
Of this. And so is it something that you talked to your mother about?
I did when I started getting breast cancer screenings. I talked to her about it, and she said this is not something that we had in our family, but it wasn't something that was really talked about a lot as well. So we really don't know if it was in previous
Did she get
generations. She did initially because I encouraged her to do that.
Okay.
But your grandmother, I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with me.
Yeah.
I eat healthy. She was really adamant about the fact of being an advocate for good health, and she actually believed that many of the problems that we have were really related to the fact of not only the food that we were eating, but the environment. And she said, I grew up on a farm, so it was healthy food. And it was the animals from the farm that we had there. They would, from the cows to the chickens, and,
that rural living.
That was healthy living.
Rural living is healthy living. I think it can be. I mean,
it was, I believe.
It was. Okay. I mean, I think pros and cons, I suppose. No way. Okay. So your perspective of having healthy living in a rural environment, would you want to live in a rural environment?
That's not me.
See? You're like, I will go to farmers markets. I will.
That's right. That's true. Or have a garden.
Balance. Yeah. Have a garden.
Have a garden.
Do you garden?
No.
Yeah. But I do go to the grocery store. I do try to shop organic.
And also the herbs that are out there, being able to grow some of your own herbs. Your grandmother grew wheatgrass. Do you remember wheatgrass?
I don't remember her growing wheatgrass. I mean, I remember taking it. I didn't remember that it was from her.
Yeah, from her own little wheatgrass garden, which was really healthy.
I mean, no, it is,
and very good for
I think
you.
The last time I had a wheatgrass shot was a random trip to Smoothie King.
Okay.
They were like, would you like a wheatgrass shot? And I was like, no, but I will, because I know that it'll probably boost all the things and I'll be better for it.
Yeah. So I think knowing something about healthy living and healthy eating and what it is you can take a shot of that can maybe boost your immune system is something that would be good.
Going beyond just breast cancer, what has your women's health journey been?
Well, for the most part, I was pretty healthy until I started my radio station. I've talked about that in the past. I was a founder of Haas Saunders Broadcast Properties, and that was a 10-year journey. And the stress of working every day, the stress of trying to start a new business, the stress of family. During that period of time, I got married, I had a baby, and I really was not taking care of myself. So self-care was not a priority at that particular time. And subsequently, I ended up getting sick. I had fibroids for the first time.
Okay, so wait, I'm going to stop you real quick because okay, so you were not taking care of yourself in the way that you now know to do. Did you just not know, or there was just too much other stuff going on? Like, how did you come to just, not practice any self-care whatsoever?
I think it was.
I shouldn't say self-care whatsoever. Maybe it wasn't that extreme, but
Well, no, I mean, I
maybe it was.
think the priority was not me. The priority was taking care of
Everybody else.
exactly.
How female of you.
And I think that's one of the life lessons that I learned. In addition to the fact, the conversation with my mother, who was constantly saying, please get your rest, please take care of yourself while you are, at one point I was working 3 jobs. And so it was necessary, I thought, to be able to work the 3 jobs so that I could have the resources so that I could build the broadcast station.
Did my grandmother practice self-care?
She did later in life.
Okay.
But she didn't.
But not in like the hardcore stress.
She learned later in life. Okay. I would say that, let's see, she was 20 years older than me. So when she was in her 40s, I think she really started a lot of self-care because she introduced me to massages, and I was in my 20s. And this wasn't something that you did just when you went on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
This was something that you should do as a part of your lifestyle.
Your ongoing
and so,
therapy.
Yes. And so, but I think when I was working in my profession, and broadcasting is always 24/7. I mean, you don't
Media's
stop.
no joke.
And so understanding that, and then having this dream that I had to be able to start this new business and my family responsibilities, I just was not practicing good self-care. Okay. I also was not listening to my body, which is something that I learned to do later in life as well. Your body will tell you when your immune system is not quite where it should be, and you need to pay attention. I did not pay attention. Therefore, I ended up having fibroids and having to have an operation the first time in my life. I'd never been in the hospital. I'd never been really sick. And I didn't know what was going on. My energy level just went all the way down. And so when I went for my annual OBGYN exam, that's when I found out about fibroids.
What are fibroids?
They are, well, you've experienced
it.
Yes.
No, I mean, just for the folks who who might not know, I mean, they're small, they're not small necessarily, but they are non-cancerous tumors that grow in or around your uterus, and they don't know where they come from. They have some, I'll call them self-care practices, with things that they say that you should maybe stay away from, but nothing's really rooted in the science of it yet. Like they say, too much estrogen can be a component. Stress is absolutely a factor when they grow. Stress, and I only know this because I had my own fibroid surgery last year. I'm trying to think if there was anything else. I mean, also some like diet things.
Well, environmental things, but for African American women, especially those who are between the ages of 18 to 30, we have fibroids much more than the majority population. White women don't have them at the same rate that we have them. We have them 25% more than white women.
Okay, I was going to say 20. I know that we have more, but but white women have them too.
They do.
I think it's like 80% of all women.
80% of all African American women after the age of 50, and 70% of all of the white women have them after, sometime during their life.
Okay.
Stress related. So what does that tell you? What does that say?
That you should start practicing self-care at the age of 2.
At the age
that's
of
my
2.
main takeaway. But I mean, to that point though, that's something that I've tried to be really intentional about since my surgery, because I don't want to ever have to go through that again. So I'm like, okay, what can I do? And the fact that they couldn't tell me exactly what caused it, but for stress, I was like, all right, let me try to continue to structure my life in a way, not continue, but start to structure my life in a better way to help manage the inevitable stress, because life is life.
Life is
life. Yeah, life. What do they say? Like life be life,
okay,
or whatever.
So your grandmother then said to me, what you're going to do you are going to now take care of yourself even better. You're going to have periods of time every day that you take some quiet time, that you meditate. You're going to now start using castor oil packs. What are castor oil packs? And so you go to the health food store, you get some castor oil, you put it in a cloth, a tight
because that's
cloth.
how you healed your fibroids the first time. Actually, now I'm remembering the story. And then they eventually came back because again, lives.
Yes.
But no, you got rid of yours.
I got rid
totally.
of mine, and at that particular time, my doctor said she truly had to go back and look again, because she said, I've never had this happen. What are you doing? That was over about an 18-month to 24-month period of time. I was able to reduce them. And then, yes.
So wait, what exactly did you do? Because I tried to emulate like a little bit of it, and mine didn't go away. But granted, I don't think I had the same, hardcore approach that you did, which is ultimately what helped.
Well, I think that the research that Mommy was doing at that particular time, and I listened to her, just like I listened to her when she talked about my pregnancy. I don't want to digress, but when she said, stop eating pork, stop eating red meat, that's not good for your pregnancy. And so there were times when I really paid attention to her and what her advice was, because she was, we would say, a woman before her time.
Yeah, sure.
And so she told me to every day, a period of time, I don't remember if it was a half hour, 45 minutes, whatever, every day, I want you to take some quiet time. I want you to meditate, and I want you to go into prayer, and I want you to talk about your body healing. And while you're doing that, I want you to put on your body these castor oil packs. And so when I went to the health food store, they knew exactly what castor oil packs were. And so
like, here's the prepackaged version for you.
Well, no, you had to buy each one of the items
Well, of course.
separately. But so there's a heating pad, and you would take this cotton piece of cloth, and you would soak it in castor oil. And then at that point, I would put it over the area of my body where I had the fibroids. And then I would just have healing thoughts and think about it.
And you did that for 18 months, you said?
Oh, yeah, at least that period of time. But what was happening when I went back to my OBGYN, she saw them reducing. She saw them going down.
She saw the results.
And so that encouraged me at that particular time to keep trying it.
Because castor oil is so messy.
Oh, well, yeah, it was messy.
And it's like thick and sticky and, healing.
Well,
but it's dedication to do that practice.
It was dedication, but also I believed that seeing some of the results was encouraging to me. And because I didn't know that many Black women had fibroids. And so I was learning about my body. I was learning about fibroids. I was learning about this holistic approach that my mother had to healing your body. And also the conversation was now changing about how we women need to start paying attention and taking more responsibility. You can listen to the doctors in the medical profession, and I truly believe that you use the best approach for you as an individual. But I also believe that women don't pay attention enough.
Well, okay, so I noticed my fibroid after some weight loss, and I was like, what's this bulge? What is happening?
Well, yeah, little nodule, little.
It was large enough for me to be like, this is a problem. We need to, like, what's happening?
Right.
But then when I found out what it was, and then, went to different doctors to try to figure out what the treatment options were. And also then I started just talking about it to my broader network, just like, this is what I'm going through. And many women were like, oh yeah, I went through that, or I went through that. And I became a little irritated by the fact that I'm now going through this in my mid-30s and nobody told me. Like, why wasn't somebody telling me in my 20s, hey, FYI, practice self-care or practice stress management, or try to figure out some way to manage your life better so you don't have some of these health outcomes, because 80% of Black women will. So just FYI.
Right. And I think that what you learned from that experience is you need to do more than one thing. You need to not only listen to the fact of what your body is saying, listen to the doctor, listen to your mother, listen to your grandmother, but you also need to make sure the path is good for you in terms of how you're going to handle your own self-care. So what did you end up doing?
I mean, yes, that, but then also could women just be honest about their experiences and what they go through from a health perspective? Can older women just share their experiences in totality? So
I think
us in the younger generation aren't shell-shocked. And, if every generation is shell-shocked by what they're going through, perhaps there should be some more conversations about some of the general health concerns that we are all dealing with.
I think that's true. I do remember we were going to a wedding, and we were a part of the wedding party, and there were 7 other women actually in the car, in the limousine that was taking us to the wedding, and we were talking about the fact that your surgery was coming up, and every other woman in the car said, "Oh yeah, I've had fibroid surgery." It was 100% of the women in the car. So to your point, I think sharing the experience. Now, each one of them said, I felt much better afterwards.
That's
I probably should have gotten it earlier. I mean, it was a round, sort of round robin conversation about then what you're addressing, health, women's health, and older women's health at that point. Sometimes I think that the hesitancy is not based upon just not wanting to share, but I'm not sure that a lot of people really knew all of what was going on. And I think that's a part of the problem too. Today it's much better, but back in the day.
Okay.
Yeah, back in the day. Because when I think about it, when my mother was in her late 30s and she had a hysterectomy, I don't know when I found out.
She had a hysterectomy to deal with fibroids?
No, she had an hysterectomy that dealt with ectopic pregnancy.
Oh, okay.
And so an ectopic pregnancy, which means that the pregnancy was outside of the uterus.
Right,
and so the baby would not have an opportunity to
grow,
to go full term and to grow.
Okay.
So, but to that point, I later in life had the same thing.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you have to have these conversations.
Yeah.
I knew that about you. I don't think I knew that about my grandmother.
Well, I didn't know it either until it. Well, I'm saying I didn't know it either until it happened. And I actually, that was the second time I was in the hospital. I actually had to be rushed to the hospital for an emergency and have surgery when that occurred. So, but I'm here today, alive and well.
I mean, yes, we both are
blessed and highly favored. But you need to take care of yourself.
I think that's my main takeaway from this piece of the conversation. And be okay with sharing your story with other people and other women, because chances are someone else might be going through something similar and maybe you can help them. It would have been really helpful to me in my 20s to have known that this was a possibility of happening to me in my 30s.
What about your OBGYN? Any conversation in terms of what the possibility might be or what you needed to pay attention to?
Okay, so true. So in hindsight, when I was working a really stressful corporate job, I was not going to the doctor as regularly as I should have been. I mean, now I'm
okay.
I'm listening to your story. I'm like, why didn't you do this? I was like, oh, well, actually. And so probably three-ish years before I had the weight loss, and I was like, what is this? They told me that I had fibroids. I didn't know what fibroids were. They didn't explain it to me further. What I did say is, like, what am I supposed to do about it? And they were like, well, they're small. They're like, oh, but you actually have one that's medium. And so I was like, well, is there a pill? Can I just give me a pill so I can just continue on with my life? And they said the smaller ones could probably be taken out microscopically, but the larger one might need to be taken out via surgery, depending on the doctor and the technology and all the things, and the location and all the things. And so as soon as I heard surgery, I was like, never mind, I will deal with this later. That is so funny. I have not thought about that since probably since it happened. I forgot that piece of the journey where I was just like, oh, everything's fine. And then 3 years, it was not fine. And I did not manage my stress. And they grew to the point of me having to have a full-blown surgery and then on bed rest for a month.
So that's why mine came back.
Okay.
That is exactly why mine came back.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So
to me now.
I think that we probably had a similar journey there in different ways,
Who
but
knew?
for the exact same reason. Yeah, I do remember this now. I remember the conversation. Yes. Owning up to it, Donica, is important.
No, I had definitely blocked that out. I was like, no, I was on top of my health, when in fact I was not on top of my health. But I will say, once life calmed down a bit, and then I was exploring my options about, okay, and I have fibroids, how am I going to treat them? I went to 5 different doctors before deciding on a surgeon, because all the doctors just wanted to do the major surgery where they cut you from kind of top to bottom and take it out. And I was like, I don't know if that's, I'm not the MD, but also I had done my research. And I was like, well, what about this technology? And what about this technology? And some of them were like, our hospital doesn't carry it. And I was like, so the option isn't for you to do it with the lack of technology. The option is for you to recommend me to a hospital system that does have the technology so we can keep this moving forward. And they were like, oh. And I eventually found a doctor who did a fantastic job, but it took time, and it took me pushing back, and it took me doing my own research. To your point about like owning your own health, and it's not fair and it's not right. I wasn't giving all the information up front. And so, I mean, my lesson from that was you just have to continue to be your own self-advocate in your healthcare journey. Otherwise, you might not know what all the options are.
And in today's environment, a lot of times people will go to the internet and then they'll self-diagnose. It's kind of like just deciding I can research this and then I'm going to decide to do this or decide not to do this. I think you still need to make sure with your research that you talk to a professional who can help
for sure,
you.
Talk to a professional.
5 doctors that you went to.
Yeah. I mean, and I was doing research on the technologies because I did not want to have the major surgery. And I wanted to know if that was truly the only way to deal with it. If it was, it was. Turns out it wasn't, but I wouldn't have known that without Google and Gemini and, all the things.
And then you mentioned that after your surgery that, you had to recover, and it was at least a month. For recovery.
They told me it was outpatient. They woke me up and they're like, we need to keep you. And I was like, well, that's not outpatient at all. But
well, yes, I remember that as well.
Because you and my husband, I was like, can you just stay with me overnight? Right. You guys, of course, you stayed with me. But I lost more blood than they had anticipated. And I also remember being woken up and in extreme pain. They were like, oh yeah, that's just the anesthesia. They had told me previously that I might feel a little something in my shoulders because gas goes through your body a certain type of way, but they were like, so just an FYI. From my perspective, that required much more than an FYI. It was so painful. I was like, give me all the pain medication.
It was very painful for you, and my heart really went out to you. I mean, it's the worst thing in the world to see your child that is in pain, but also the agony, and then you didn't know how long it was going to last because you kept saying, "Mommy, how long?" How? And I said, "Well, the doctor said this and this and this," because the fact that they kept you additional day also was very challenging for you.
Yes. And it was hard to be off my feet. We are an active people. And so it gave me a whole different lens of compassion, empathy for folks who have to stay in bed for whatever reason or can't be up and into their normal routine. It was tough. It was tough physically and mentally.
So the life lesson here is pay attention to the body.
Yes.
When it's advised early on, maybe you go ahead and address the concern without self-diagnosis, and then decide what is the best route for you to take in your particular situation. It's not for everybody to be able to do it that way, but you really do have to take ownership. And how do you feel today?
So much better. As soon as I was able to get up and functional again, my energy was back through the roof. I was like, oh my gosh, is this what I'm supposed to feel like? And I'm happy that I did it and I feel 100% better. And then I was like, I wonder how long I had been feeling,
Yes.
operating at whatever it was, 60%. What
Yeah.
this is what 100%. Then and I have no idea. Was I operating at 60% for 5 years or?
I know. I remember an older lady telling me when I went through my surgery, she saying, "You're going to feel so good. You're going to think, I wished I had done this before." And I can't imagine wishing I had surgery before. She goes, "No, no, no. You're going to feel so good." And then when it happened, I did feel so much better. And like you, I was thinking, wonder how long I've been feeling my normal for that particular time was really not normal.
Mhm.
It was abnormal because my energy level was low and I was not able to function in the way that I know I needed to function all the time. But I just kind of pushed through it.
But now that I'm thinking back on it too, when I first was made aware that I had fibroids, even if I mean, it was such a different circumstance, and I was in that stress bubble that you were talking about in terms of having it come at you all different ways. I can't even imagine trying to schedule a surgery or have multiple conversations with various doctors. And I mean, you do what you have to do, but I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just a lot. Life is a lot.
Life is a lot. Yes, but the alternative is
That's
even
true.
more challenging.
Yes, a lot,
Even
but worth
more
it. But also,
A lot but worth
I
it.
feel like it's
Yeah,
important
yeah.
to acknowledge the allotness.
Right.
Of
So,
it all.
so what we want to do is encourage those who are listening to us and are watching us to just take care of yourself and be checked out and do what it is that you need to do on a regular basis to stay healthy. Self-care is important.
So, how do you practice self-care today?
Well, daily I meditate.
Yeah, you do. Think
A
about that.
minimum of 15 minutes, but mostly I try to take quiet time back to that half hour or 45 minutes.
You started off at
And
15
so
minutes.
I just started off at 15
Really, you
minutes.
started off at 15
Well, I
when you
probably
first started meditating?
Our church had a meditation and
Okay,
took
so
some classes,
you
and
trained.
so I was
Okay.
delving into that. But Mommy had talked about it long before then as well. I didn't know how to concentrate. I mean, some people say, woo woo Zen kind of thing. I said, well,
Well, we have some busy minds.
but we do. What I learned is that you can train yourself, and you can train yourself to turn the mind off. It takes practice, and it takes a while. It takes a long while. Meditation allows you to be able to control your thoughts at a certain time. And there are all different kinds of meditation out there.
Yeah.
So whether it's the kind that is self-guided or whether you can just be quiet and listen to some music or whether you want to be in silence. I mean, there are just different ways to do it. And then there are mantras. There are things that you can say to be able to really get in your own cadence.
Calm
So
yourself
I've
down,
tried
everything.
all different kinds of things. But yes, daily, I make sure at least once a day, sometimes twice a day, that I do that. I do meditation because it allows me in the world that we live in today with all of the challenges that people are facing and with my own busy personality, because I like to do busy, I like to be busy and do lots of things. It allows me to be able to quiet myself down and to really define stillness for me at a particular time.
Yeah.
Breathing is so very important too. So learning how to be able to take deep breaths and how to be able to time exactly.
So you take
what
deep
the-
breaths every day?
Oh, absolutely. I take deep breaths even doing this podcast.
Yeah. Like I've been breathing deep this whole time.
So, well, I
That's
mean,
funny.
because these are the kinds of times where you need to be able to figure out what works for you
Yeah.
and then how you're going to do it and prioritize those things that are important to you. So
I don't think I knew that I wasn't breathing deeply. So we talked last week about my yoga practice, and that's where I learned that I didn't breathe. And once they started teaching, that's how I've started learning how to breathe more deeply and more intentionally and using the breath. in a variety of different ways, whether it's to calm the mind or whether it's to focus and heal the body. Like your breath can do all types of amazing things. But to your point about finding what works for you, I mean, yoga is what works for me because, you know, they trap you on a mat and they're like, you know, breathe until you're finished.
Yes,
but
yes.
yeah, but for that, I think I would struggle to do it on an ongoing basis just because, you know, other priorities in life. But you're right. You just have to prioritize it. You have to make it top of mind.
I also think that, and you do this so well, some kind of exercise, some form of exercise. So sometimes it's walking, sometimes it's bike riding, sometimes it's just being in nature and just kind of moving. It can be moving from the chair, or it can be something you're doing in your house. I like to dance to music, and I do Ronita's dance, which is not a particular, I'm not a good dancer. I don't have a lot of rhythm. No, I don't have all the moves.
You know, I go to a hip hop
But
dance class.
yes,
You want
I
to join
know
me?
that. Yeah, we could do that. We could do.
I felt some hesitancy.
I did join you in one class where
Oh,
the
yeah.
instructor was a little bit older, and she was playing music from like the 80s and 90s, which was my era of being able to dance. And so that was pretty cool. I
Yeah,
enjoyed
that's
that.
right. Okay,
Yeah,
so you did come to a dance
that was,
class.
let me see, that was a Saturday morning. I could do that
You could do
again.
that. Okay.
Yeah. So, but my point is just moving.
Yeah, exactly.
Moving, and you have to move on a regular basis. I remember watching my father and my uncles sit on the porch and sit in rocking chairs, and they would talk about the way life used to be. And I think, why are they talking about the way life used to be? But they were sitting there, they weren't moving. They had reached a point, either in terms of some illnesses or some challenges, that they sat around and talked about life, as opposed to at that point being
Going
able
out and
to
living it.
Well, yes, because they weren't feeling good. They weren't, I think, doing as much as they needed to do. And these were men, so you know.
Oh, that's a whole different thing.
And that is, yes, yes. So
I agree with you, though. Movement is one. I mean, you have, to your point, you just have to keep moving, and I feel like that's probably one of the number one things that doctors tell you. Because if you stop moving, then you die.
yeah. Well, when you don't
Maybe
use
that's
it,
extreme, but
when you don't, when you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
And so that's what they say. So, and then the other part in terms of diet and being able to nutritionally make sure you're getting what it is that you need on a daily basis.
Take your multivitamins.
Take your vitamins. Also watch what you're putting into. Now, I am not this purist that says I won't eat this, I won't eat that. You know, I
can't
like,
preach about this.
well, no, I like a really good slice of apple pie, and you can catch me.
Our sweet. Do I get my sweet tooth from you?
I love sweets.
Yeah, I mean, if I
and
could
ice
survive
cream,
on ice cream.
every flavor of ice cream, but vanilla is my number one. I know people say that's so boring.
Yeah.
But I like to get back to the basics. But I
chocolate chip. That's what I remember.
Like
but you're like, I just like it all, actually.
Yeah.
I don't discriminate.
Yes, all the different kinds of. So I'm not saying that you can't have treats for yourself, but I am saying pay attention, especially as you begin to get older and you age. You need to pay attention to what you're putting in.
Ice cream is a form of self-care. That's
ice cream is a point of self-care. Okay. I also really like potatoes. And so,
potato chips are your thing.
Potato chips.
Yeah.
Yep. But I like French fries. I like mashed potatoes.
You're like all
potatoes.
Yes.
I think that. And so, but it's just important to be mindful of what you're doing. And I didn't know for a number of years that I really did just eat because of stress. And I didn't know that there was mindless eating. And so when you live a highly stressful life and you decide to just choose to do the things that you're doing and you eat on the run, you're not aware always of how much you're putting in to your mouth. And then
so how did you learn that you were mindlessly eating?
When at one point I went to the doctor and I wasn't feeling well. And the doctor was asking me, well, what did you eat? What are you doing?
What are you consuming?
Yes. And so I started talking about it. And I hadn't even thought about it. And I remember she was sitting there and she was writing down. And then she looked at me and she looked at what I had told her, and then she said, "Is that all?" And I said, "No, I think I think I'm missing something."
Oh my goodness.
And she said, "Ronita, that's
So you
too
are
much."
consuming 65,000 calories a day.
Really, I believe that Dr. Gills would have thought that.
Yeah, some point, yeah.
So she had a conversation with me about mindless eating, and she said, what you are doing is you're handling your stress by eating. You're handling the fact that you don't have time to eat by eating more. I mean, she went through this whole thing, and I thought, okay, now let me go research this because I didn't know that there was.
Oh, wait. Can we talk about Dr. Gill for a second? Because she has been, or was, I know she's now passed away, but she was instrumental in our family healthcare journey. She changed my life. She changed your life. And she changed my grandmother's life. And then, of course, she was recommended out. I mean, was she Caribbean?
So she was from one of the islands.
Okay, yeah. I'm like, this Caribbean woman was unbelievable.
She was. She had a very intuitive sense as well. So in addition to being an excellent healthcare provider and doctor, she also could sort of read you and your body and what was going on. And so after the exam, she would take time, extra time, which is why I always wanted either the first appointment in the morning or the last appointment in the evening.
Oh, so you could take your time.
But I knew that she was going to take the time, and she did that with all her patients. Her patients just loved her. And yes, I did recommend her to several family members and friends. But what she would do is kind of figure out what's going on. She was the DO.
But not just from a physical perspective. I feel like she connected everything. She was like, okay, well, physically, this is a manifestation of mentally and emotionally and even probably spiritually about what's going on in other aspects of your life. So let's work on healing it all.
That's exactly right. And you really talk about her culture. What she said was when she was growing up, that her mother and her aunts and the other people around her would talk about health just as easily being our own responsibility, but things that they could really heal themselves, as we talk about just going to the doctor.
See, that's what I'm saying. Conversations with women about health, intergenerational conversations with women about health would be so powerful for the younger generation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, and the conversation really helped me to take a good, solid look at not only what I was eating, but how much I was eating, too. That amount of food, you don't need that amount of food. And so she put me on a nutritional program. She really talked to me about the amount of food. But then what was I feeding you?
Oh.
Okay, I mean,
what are you giving this child?
Exactly.
Well, I remember you said something to me once that because as an adult, I think I don't know how old I was when you said this to me, but I was mindful of it, and I was like, I can see the accuracy in this. So I played sports, and we dove into that last episode as well. But I've also had like a big appetite.
Yes.
That's probably from maybe it's from you and my father.
Well,
my father was a bottomless pit.
Yeah. He was very, very slim.
Yeah.
He could eat whatever he wanted to and not gain an ounce. You talk about being irritated. Oh my goodness!
Well,
I mean, he's on the third plate of food. I mean, literally, and people would look at him and go, "Donnie, where
does it go?
Where does it go? Where did you put it?" But he had a high metabolism, and he was always moving, and he was walking. I mean, just literally. But
you said to me once that I eat like a football player. And I was like, of all the sports I play, I don't play football. But I do know that those guys eat a lot. But it did make me more conscious moving forward. I didn't always listen or adhere to it, but I was like, okay, yeah. So maybe I did literally just order 2 meals from Chipotle versus just the standard 1 meal. And maybe that's not the best decision for an ongoing basis.
No, and I think understanding it is really important too. What is it doing to us? It's satisfying.
How I feel afterwards.
Right. It's satisfying your hunger. But then how do you feel and why are you eating so much? What is the reason behind it?
I liked being full. So that was a good feeling.
Okay. But see, what I learned in talking to Dr. Gill is that there is a point at which you're beyond full and you just
Oh, like you're just
continue.
like stuffing
You're
yourself,
just
and then you
stuffing
just like
yourself.
pass out
Yes, yeah.
afterwards.
It's really the holiday syndrome. You know, during the holidays, families would have all of this wonderful food and big meals, and you'd eat, and then you'd eat some more, and then you'd have dessert, and then 3 hours later,
Time to eat again.
yes, and that's because the food was there. So
It's actually why I wonder, like, who came up with, well, I know who came up with the concept of Black Friday, but in my mind, I remember when I first heard about that, I don't know if it's a holiday, but that day, I was like, but who has the energy to to go shopping because you're so full? That was my very first thought. I was like, but after my 16 meals, I don't feel like walking around shopping.
yes, well, the retailers wanted to change
Yeah,
that,
and
and so
they put a lot of
that
effort
kind
into
of
changing
yes,
behaviors, but
yeah.
that was my very first thought because you're right. It is
Yeah.
the multiple plates of delicious food.
Yeah, and I think then understanding you can still have some, and you can still eat, but you don't have to have huge portions of everything there, and you don't have to eat as if this is your last meal. So that was a part of me really retraining my mind in terms of how much food I want to intake.
But then I also wonder, like, if a piece of this is cultural too, because I'm trying to remember if this is just like stories from my friends or like finishing your food type scenario. You know, like as a child, you're sitting at the table. Can I get up and go play? No, you need to finish your food. I don't.
It is cultural.
Was that a
Yeah.
rule in our house? I can't remember,
It
but it's
wasn't.
not. It's one that I'm generally aware of from a cultural
Yes,
perspective.
no,
I
that
feel like
wasn't
could
a
play
rule
on the
for you.
psyche.
That was not a rule for you, but it was a rule for me.
Okay.
And because interestingly enough, when I was a child, I didn't like food. And I know, I can't imagine it.
I wonder when the switch happened.
I'm not quite sure.
Oh wait, can I guess?
You
Based
can't.
on what I know.
Okay.
Was it when you went to France
That's
in high school?
exactly right. That is
Yeah,
exactly.
is that when you were introduced
Right.
to the
I
whole
was.
new? Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
and I gained 21 pounds in 2 months being in France.
Well, as we
Yeah.
discussed, the
I
food,
was
the cheese, all of it.
15.
Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
I was 15 years old then, and it changed. In fact, my cousins still tease me about that. Even today, at this age, they said they had a going away party for me when I went to France, a bon voyage party,
Oh,
and I was the first cousin relative to go overseas at that age. I'm 15 years old, and so they have this party for me, and so then they're all at the airport when I returned, and I had gained 21 pounds.
They're like, where's Ronita?
They could not.
That can't be her.
That could not be. But that was the very first time that I remember having what I considered to be a weight problem because I couldn't wear my drill team uniform. You're measured before school's out for your uniform. And I was on the drill team. I could not wear the uniform. But my cousins say that they looked at me and it's like I had blown up. And
Talk about traumatic.
Well, it was, but I knew I was gaining weight. But I mean, because nothing fit.
Right.
But I didn't know how much weight I had gained until we went to the doctor. And I went to the doctor before I went to France.
Mm-hmm.
And then coming back. And when the doctor said 21 pounds, I just remembered it was traumatic.
Yeah, I bet.
But to hear my cousins describe it.
That was also traumatic.
It was
for you.
very traumatic.
Yeah. I mean, I could. I mean, the story I have that is somewhat relatable to that was my freshman year of college, where I was going through culture shock. I was homesick. I was going through what so many folks go through when they go off to college. And so then I gained, I don't know how much weight, but maybe it was a freshman 15, maybe it was 20, maybe it was 10, I don't know. But it was the largest that I've probably ever been.
Yes.
Up until that point in my life. And so, and I knew it, and I knew that I was gaining weight. And I didn't have the nutritional knowledge, I don't think, at that point to even know why. I'm like, I'm eating less. And it's like, yes, but Donica, if you eat less donuts, that doesn't necessarily it's the quality of the food. It's not necessarily quality plus quantity.
You were in Atlanta, and there was a lot of really good food.
I'm telling you, the soul food got me.
Yes.
The soul food got me.
Yeah.
But it's a traumatic experience to gain weight in a short period of time. So
for your body too. I mean, my body went through a lot of trauma, so your body would go through trauma too. I'm talking, 2 months. You're talking at least a whole semester.
Okay. Fair enough.
So,
Fair enough.
but then if you don't gain control, then you have a lifetime of challenges in that way, and some of us do, and I've struggled with weight issues back and forth, even being in broadcasting, being in media, not being happy with my size, and that's the whole body image issue that women deal with.
I mean, I don't think it's ever easy for women, and I can't speak for men because I'm not, so I'm just gonna speak directly for women. But you can't. You're too big, you're too small, you're too fat, you're too skinny, you're too tall, you're too short, you're too this, you're too that. I mean, that's why you and I at this stage of our life we focus on health,
Right.
and then just feeling the best that we can feel, and then also being happy with you, like
Yes, that's
do
right.
whatever you want to do or feel like you need to do
Right.
to be the best version of yourself that you want to be,
Right.
regardless of what others think.
And I think that's important. It's an important lesson. That's an important lesson that Rosa taught me, and this Rose representing my mother Rosa, because what she would say is, when you learn the lesson, learn it well, and then be able to talk about it and share it. In this case, the lesson of good health, because she was an advocate of holistic medicine. She was an advocate of good health. And I think that's one of the reasons why she lived to be 94. And we honor her by being able to remember those life lessons and to understand that even though we don't live in the country now and we don't maybe all have our own gardens, but what we can do is choose wisely those things that we get from the grocery store.
You do what you can with what you have where you are. That's kind of like what I think about it. Like
It's true.
and then you move it forward in the best way. You know, when you know better, you do better.
Do better. That's right. Right. So take the time to love yourself.
Yeah.
Take the time for self-care. Take the time to share. I think with
Hey, don't be selfish
others.
with the self-care. You know,
Right.
share the wisdom.
Right. So, and I get massages on a regular basis now.
Yeah, I mean, me too. But I know for a fact that I got that from you. I mean, my father would do it occasionally, and you started me when I was in high school because, but it wasn't for relaxation. I don't think it was therapeutic because I was getting beat up on the basketball court. You're like, oh my gosh, my child.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a practice that has only benefited me. I know that for a fact in my healthcare journey since then.
And what about your other screenings? Your eye tests, going to the dentist. All of these things are a part of good self-care because good dental hygiene, making sure you have a good dentist, and making sure that you're getting your regular checkups. All of these things really are a part of the total package.
Yeah. So I do go to the dentist and get my annual checkups and all those things. And in terms of the eye test, though, I was like, now, wait a minute. When's the last time I had an eye test? Probably the last time I got my license, because I think they require it. And then I don't even know if that's the same like medical test. So, but also I feel like that with the eyes, if you don't need it, then why? I don't want to say why do it because it is good to, have the ongoing screening, but I have not done an eye test in a really long time, but in part because I don't feel like I need it. And who needs another appointment on their calendar, honestly?
That's like a hearing test as well, because we don't get hearing tests on a regular basis until you get older in life, and then you start getting all of this advertisement.
Oh, you were telling me about this. You're like, Donica, you think your appointments are busy now. Like your healthcare appointments are busy now. Just wait. Right. And I was like, wait a minute. It can't get any. I guess it can always get worse. But you're like, it's a whole thing.
It is. It's a whole thing because they want you to do bone density tests that you should have. And I said to the doctor, why do I need a bone density test? And they want to check for osteoporosis.
Oh, yeah.
And so, and at your age, it's important to do that. And I said, well, my bones don't feel bad. I mean, I can move.
I'll let you know if there's a bone issue.
Exactly. But no, it's preventative.
Yeah.
And so they, and then the hearing tests. And what's interesting about the hearing part of it is I remember when I was in radio and thinking, going to those concerts, putting in earplugs so that because the music was so loud.
Yeah.
I'm really glad I did that because many individuals who are in the music industry at a certain time later in life really find that they're having hearing issues because everything was just loud.
I think everything's still very loud, and it's very loud now, like going in a different way, like going in the earbuds or like on these big. Yeah, I don't think the music has gotten any softer.
Okay,
right. I don't think.
Right.
Yeah. So
pay attention.
Pay attention. Maybe or maybe not schedule a hearing or eyeing test. Well, no, when the doctor tells me to do it, then I'll do it.
The next time.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna lean into.
So. Well, that's good. Okay. Well, it's been wonderful having this conversation with you.
Thank you for having the conversation with me. Thank you for but continuing this healthcare intergenerational conversation with your daughter, because as I've mentioned, I find it to be so important. I know that others do as well.
Absolutely. So on to good health.
On to good health. Have a great week.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.